Hello YouTube, it's SWLA Mech 84 again. I'm here to thread the piece of my drive shaft for my roller steady rest modifications project. Just getting the lathe set up. I've already installed my dial caliper here so that I can see my direct in values, or the dashboard dial as Mr. Keith Fender calls it. A very, very nice way of keeping track since you are at a 30-degree angle and it's just a component moving in the perpendicular direction to your workpiece. I'm going to be using a brazed carbide threading bit, and that's going to be upside down in the lathe, and I'm going to thread from left to right with my lathe running in reverse. So I'm going to get this tool bit mounted in here. Just going to snug it up and get it in the area to check everything first before I tighten anything down. Remove my stop here. Now, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's zoom in a little bit. And I'll probably have to come down. I'm going to have to raise my tool bit substantially to get near the center line. And I'm just going to eyeball it right now. Okay, that's pretty close. And now I'm going to move it over and set it up so that you can see from the end. So as you can see, it's pretty close to center there. And the way I'm going to determine if I am on center, I'm going to insert my fish tape. And then I can just barely snug it up there and see that my fish tape is not perfectly vertical. So that means I need to come back a little bit and go down. Okay. I'll come in and barely snug up on it. Okay, and that is a little back. So I need to come out just a smidge. Snug on it again. Alright. Just a little bit more. Okay, and it may look like it's still in an angle on the camera, just because I don't have it perfectly level with it. The camera. So now we're adjusted on center. Get this out of the way. So I'm going to relocate the camera and get the machine set up. Okay, I don't know how well you won't be able to read this, but I'm going to cut 3/8 by 24 threads. So I need a 24 thread pitch. So I come over here and find my 24. That is letter C, number 6. And my dials are A, B, C. So I'm going to move that over to C. And then number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I always want to check twice. And on this lathe, I have a feed lever selector here. This one is just feeds and cross feeds. This one actually engages the lead screw. And that's what it needs to be on thread. And up here, make sure you can see what I'm pointing at. This lever here adjusts my direction of feed. And if I was to lock this in and turn my half nut on, it would feed the carriage in, just like normal. And I'm going to have to feed it the other direction for it to feed out. I'm going to have to switch it on to make sure that in the reverse direction it does work that way. Let me get out so you can see the carriage moving here. Okay, I'm going to turn it on. Turn it on. I have to spin backwards. Then I'm going to engage my half nut and I'm feeding in that direction. So since my lathe is spinning backwards, this feed has been reversed. So now I need to switch it to the opposite direction. So when I turn my lathe, now I'm feeding the correct direction. Okay. And on this lathe, I'm going to be looking for a 24 threads per inch right here, and it has a 1-8. That means that on my thread chaser here, I can engage my half nut on any mark, because a 24 thread per inch allows me to engage on every mark. I usually still try to hit the same number just so I'm consistent. And on this lathe, this is mounted by one single screw right here, and it just pivots in and out. So I'll pivot it in. Found a little bit of oil and grease under there. I'll pivot it in, and then I'll turn my longitudinal wheel until I see that it's engaging. Okay, and I'm engaging now. So as it spins, that turns. Of course, everyone knows. When it comes around a mark here, if I want to go on 3, then I push this lever down whenever it comes to the 3. And on this lathe, it doesn't catch exactly on the 3, so you have to kind of have the lever almost down right before, and then it'll slip down on its own when the groove actually comes in. Okay, so we have all that set up. I have my correct thread pitch on my dials. I have my thread chaser inside set up. Now I'm going to come in to the part and I'm going to find a 0 on the surface and get up above here so you can see what's going on, and I can still operate. Okay, now I'm going to come in and barely touch the surface after I snug up my tool bit. Okay, so I'm going to find my surface there. So I found my surface. And I'm going to set 0 on my cross feed. This will be my pull-out dial. So when I finally shut it off, I can just back out all the way back around to 0. And then when I'm ready to go back in, I go back into 0. An easy way to get out quickly. And then I'm also going to 0 out my compound dial, which is not necessary because we're going to be watching the direct in feed on the dashboard dial, as Mr. Keith Finner says. Now I need to get this moved in so that I will register a change. Set that at 0 so I can move in and come back to my 0 there. All right. Now I'm going to chamfer the outside end, the outboard. Okay, I have chamfers on both sides, my inside and outside end. And now I'm going to come back out to 0. Start off in my groove at 0. Okay, that's 0. And I'm going to dial in just 2 thousandths. I'm going to start, I'm going to wait for my number, and then I'm going to take a very light pass and then check it with the thread gauge just to make sure I'm the right pitch. Before we do any of that, I am going to switch down to my lowest RPM, which is 70 RPM. Okay. Sorry, the longitudinal hand wheel hit the tripod while it was rolling there. Having some focus problems. Okay, and you can see the scratch marks on there. Get my thread pitch dot gauge. Find 24. And we are 24. So now I'm going to back out here to show you the dials. I'll leave it back in. I know when I watch a threading video, I like to see the up close. There's a lot of other stuff going on behind the scenes, but I guess maybe we'll cover that again. I've been doing a lot of threading on this project. Okay, so I'm gonna come out a full revolution on my 0 dial, come back, go back in with my cross feed to 0. And I'm back at 2000 on my dashboard dial. And this thread from the fish tape in the earlier video, that's another hairy arm there. Okay, We have a double thread depth of 54, so half thread depth is 27. So I'm going to take some pretty light passes, and here we go. Okay, just wanted to check them out real quick here. And I'm going to take a spring cut. Now that I've got the majority of the thread depth down, I'm going to speed the lathe up 270 RPM. That way I can get a little better finish on here. Okay. And I always like to run a file over the top of them to knock off the burr before I do any checking. And it's always important when you're running a file on the lathe is to never aim it at your body. And you always need to be standing off to the side of it and make sure you clear the chuck jaws. And I'm going to spin it in the reverse direction to catch the lead. Okay. Run a brush over it. And check our fit. Got one of the other blank bodies here. And that's pretty good. It's a little tight going on. So what I'll do is just wrap some sandpaper on the outside of that. Turn my speed up a little bit. Go 600 RPM. try it again here. And that's the kind of fit I'm looking for there. It's got a tiny bit of wobble in it, class 1, class 2 fit. It was full thread depth. If I wanted to get a tighter thread fit than that, I would have stopped before I reached the full thread depth and tried the part, took 1,000th or 2,000ths, tried the part until I got the right fit. But this is what I want. I want to be able to spin it and it kind of go on its own so that I can adjust this thing quickly and not have to crank and crank and crank and have to really bear down on it. So I'm happy with that fit right there. Okay, and that part is almost done. Go ahead and take it out of the chuck here. Okay, not too bad. Like I said, I'm not trying to be super accurate on it, and I really just want to get them finished. But what I'll probably do, it's pretty dirty in here. That thread relief wasn't deep enough for that single point to get in there. I ended up having to go a little deeper. So I'm gonna probably chuck it back up and clean that out after I go get it cleaned up and look at it. And that's it. I'll be continuing the rest of the operations in the next videos. Thank you for joining.